What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the DX Gamer Show. My name is Mike, aka Operation DX, and welcome to the third episode of PlanetBase. During the previous episode, I mentioned that we were pretty much self-sufficient, but we're not exactly quite there just yet. So there is a desk in the lab that needs to be built. And as soon as that's built, we'll pretty much be ready to go. Even though we got the achievement for self-sufficiency, I think in the first episode after we built the food processor. But we need to have that desk built because it allows the medic to build the med kits. Anyways, I am clicked on the mine here and just checking out to see what's going on with my workers. So I have one worker in the mine producing ore, and that's important, so I can kind of pay attention to future projects. And now we have some of our tomato plants. Looks like they're producing some food. You can see some of the red boxes in the back there. They'll just kind of sit there until we have a place to store them, or until the food processor needs them, which of course brings me to the next major project that I want to get started in this episode. I definitely want to get a medium to large sized storage facility running. That is my primary objective, although things, like I said, they're drastically slowing down because we do only have 7 crew right now. We only have 3 workers, and those 3 workers got to mine the resources, and they got to process the resources. So the engineers are, I guess, too stingy to operate the machinery inside of the processing lab. So the engineers, for the most part right now, are going to walk around and do pretty much nothing except for maybe build stuff if stuff needs to be built. So those stingy engineers, I wish they would go in the processing facility and do some work. However, the engineers will be doing their bid for king and country later on when I build a factory and some other things that only engineers can do. We need to make something called spares, or essentially spare parts. So you may have noticed on the outside we've got a couple of boxes out here, and they have a little gear symbol on them. Right now we have a pretty decent supply, but we definitely need to keep it in the back of our head of how many of these things we have, because they are used pretty much all the time. Fortunately, they don't seem to be used to actually repair the bots, but they do repair things like the solar array and the wind turbine. Those 2 modules, as they run, they slowly degrade. Not too many of the facilities actually do that, but those do, and they use the spares, so I need to be able to produce more of them, or eventually we will be in big trouble. Alright, so you also notice that I'm trying to kind of use my power a little sparingly. So right now we don't have any injured crew. We have no one going into the medical facility, so I went ahead and just shut that down to save some power. Alright, so we have a couple more processors that need to be finished being built here, but it's really not of critical importance because still, like I said, we only have 3 workers right now. We don't. We don't have a bot that can actually do anything for us that's going to help us. Later, though, we will. All right, so let's go ahead and place this down, and eventually, this is going to get built. But it's actually going to take a little while. So, like I said, once you get established, it takes some time to get started. All right, so the next major thing that I will probably build after I get the storage facility up is a landing pad, and that will allow additional crew to come into your base, and then you can start doing expansions and all of that. So we will get to that point as soon as we possibly can. I'd like to get some more workers in here. Fortunately, you can control who comes into your base when the ship lands down with the exception of some kind of interesting events that do occur, which I'm not going to talk about because that's future stuff, and I did a lot of that during the previous episode. Anyways, I have to turn the medical facility back on because one of my crewmen, or my workers, have become injured by working in the mine already. So let's kind of check on that worker. So we have a worker in the mine right now. We have another worker using the processing facility, and another one that is injured. And we need to keep our workers up and running, if all possible, at all times. All right, so fortunately, we do have a lot of med kit. Well, not a lot, but we have a decent amount of med kits that came with us on the colony ship. So I imagine the medic is heading out and grabbing a med kit right now so that he can, or is it a she? I don't know if my medic's a she, can fix up my injured worker and then get him back to work, because he needs to be working. Otherwise, things are just going to go really, really slowly. Fortunately, it looks like my two biologists are doing a fairly decent job of keeping all the plants up and running to a decent level. I was worried that I may have placed down too many, because this is bigger than the facility that I did during the tutorial, and I have a lot of stuff for them to do, and there is only 2 of them, so they may not get to other things, because I think that the biologist, I don't know, maybe it's the medic. Maybe it's the medic that actually makes the med kits. But maybe the biologist makes the bio meat. I'm not clear on that. We'll see later on. Okay, so you can see these guys carrying off some of the boxes of vegetables to the food processor. And you can see some of those guys are eating meals. I was checking on them earlier. Their levels are looking pretty good. Everyone seems to be happy and functioning in a green level. I would say that is a good thing, yeah? Alright, so I am clicked on my medic and making sure that she is heading out there and grabbing a med kit to get my worker up and running, because, dude, he needs to be up there ASAP. Doing some work, getting in the mine, doing some processing or something, because wow, things can go slow in the beginning of this. Sometimes you want to just grab the character and tell them, dude, just go do this right now, and there's no way to do that. All of your colonists are going around just kind of doing their own thing, and you just got to make sure that they have all the facilities they need in order to keep their levels all green. Alright, so she's moving along nice and quickly. She's got the med kit, and that worker will be back in functioning order really, really soon. So there are a couple of things that you can kind of do to try to get some of these guys to do their job. And you can change the priority of some of the buildings. So, for example, if I just wanted the workers to just exclusively mine ore, I could click the priority button on the mine and they would more likely go there. But the other thing I could do is I actually could turn off the processing facility so they couldn't go there. And then they could do something kind of annoying and actually not go to the mine, but carry some stuff around. I'd rather have the bots doing that kind of stuff, or the engineers. And that's something that I've kind of noticed in some of the patching. So it seems like while I've been playing this game, there's been a couple of patches that have kind of tweaked a couple things, and it does seem that if the engineers are idle, they will go over and help carry boxes, and they definitely should do that. Dude, there's only 7 people in the colony. You can't just stand around and do nothing. So that's why in this particular episode, you may notice that they're actually, going around and doing stuff, but they still sit around idle every once in a while, and it really, really ticks me off. But there's just nothing for them to really do right now. They can carry some food over to the food processor, but yeah, they're not going to work in the worker areas. So Unfortunately, there's nothing for them to do. What I wouldn't mind, though, is if the engineers, like, if they happen to be crossing the bot's path, say, hey, buddy, how you doing there? Let's check and see what your quality level. Let's fix you up, you know, kind of thing. That would be kind of good. It may slow the bots down every once in a while, but maybe every once in a while they could do a check to fix it up. Hey, I got a piece of metal finished there, so we're getting there, moving along very slowly. We're 10 minutes in here, and we've got one piece, one piece to our cargo facility, which I think requires 2 pieces of metal, 2 pieces of bioplastic for the actual module, and then 1 piece of metal and 1 piece of bioplastic for the corridor. So that's going to take a little while. Alright, so it looks like my worker got healed up, and that is good, but you can see it's how things are moving slow. Alright, so he's heading back off to the mine. I got 1 worker in there already. So, man, as soon as I can, I'll be building a landing pad. But another thing that I have to keep in the back of my head is for every 30 colonists, I need to build another O2 generator. So the medium-sized O2 generator that I have, which is the biggest one I can build right now, can only support 30 people. And sometimes, if you get a bunch of colonists in like really deep areas of the colony, and they're all kind of hanging out or congregating in that area, they can actually decrease the oxygen level in the module. So there's a lot of like really deep and complicated things going on here that like I can really definitely appreciate. I mean, I definitely noticed that too. Of course, we won't see that with 7 colonists, but like, you know, if I, for example, set my my canteen like way away from my oxygen generator, it happens to be right next to my oxygen generator, but if I set it way away and they all happen to start eating at once, the oxygen level inside of the canteen will just drop down, you know, and like sometimes you get a warning, it's like the oxygen level in that is too low, they have to leave or whatever, so they'll get up and leave, and that'd be bad if they're eating food and they're hungry and all of that. Anyways, you may hear it. Let me just kind of be quiet for a second. Alright, you hear that little tiny little beeping noise. It's telling me that my power collector is actually running out of power or being drained because the power is not enough to keep that thing up and running. That's why that thing is absolutely critical. In fact, I'm probably going to want to build 2 or 3 or 4 more of those later on, of course, with a couple additional solar panels and possibly another wind turbine. I like to stick with just the 1 wind turbine and just use the solar generators with a lot of the power storage facilities, because the wind generator is not a surefire power supply. It's something that is very dependent on the weather, and sometimes, like right now, it is completely dead and not generating any power. But the sun always rises, so that's why I like to go with the large solar panels and lots of the generators, and I have a lot of power just kind of stored up, and that's just kind of like a way to just make sure that you always have power and your base won't shut down. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to manage it perfectly, and that's never going to happen, because it's very likely that during my expansion I may overlook something and, well, we might run out of power, and that's kind of a bad thing. Hopefully we survive when that happens, if it happens. Alright, so just kind of checking out things here. So you can see that these move down from excellent condition to good condition. We have a couple of ready-to-eat meals, a few spare parts, and some med kits. So not too much left over there to put in the cargo facility, but we do have a bunch of vegetables kind of piling up in the bio lab right now, and those are actually going... Ooh, that was really close. Those are actually degrading in quality as well. Oh, we just saw it in the crater there. Anyway, we could technically speed up time, but I like to play this in real time. Things have slowed down, but we'll get there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.